Hello everyone, and welcome back to a beginner's guide to making Balatro mods. My name is the Astra, and as I've said in the past, I am a well-seasoned member of the modding dev community, and today we are going to be exploring lovely patching and hooking. You may have heard of lovely before, most likely during your mod install process, but what exactly is lovely? Well, lovely is a code injector that will take arguments from some files that you make. They're called .toml files or toml, and it will take those arguments and change the code of the vanilla game with those arguments. So basically what patching is changing the vanilla code of some sort of application to fit your needs. So why exactly should I patch? Well, the biggest example I can give to you is, what if Smods doesn't have a context I wanted? With this tool, Lovely, we are able to inject code that will run a context for us that wouldn't normally run otherwise. It is a very helpful tool. Almost every mod out there uses it. And no, it's not a virus as your operating system might think it is, but that's just the nature of it being a code injector. So if I go down to this section here, the patches section on the Lovely GitHub repo, that shows a basic structure of a patch file. So I'm only going to go over a few of these things. First off is your manifest. This is the header of the file. The most important part here is the priority. This is the order in which your file will be injected into vanilla code. A manifest is important because it tells Lovely that yes, this is indeed a patch file and it does in fact need to be run. So if we scroll down here, we're going to get a bunch of different patch methods. So these types of patches include the pattern patch, which simply takes a pattern here, looks for it in whatever file you specify here, and it will attach a payload code wherever you specify. It can be after, before, or at. Down here we have the regex patch, which is very similar to the pattern, but instead of a typical pattern, you can use a regex argument. So that way you don't need an entire line of code to target. And then these last two are a little more niche. We've got patches.copy, which as said here, will copy your code to the file agnostic of a position. So it'll just slap it at the either very beginning or very end of a file that you specify. And there's also module, which again is niche, but essentially runs one of your own files before any sort of game file gets run. I don't know of anyone else who uses this, but I can understand why it exists. All right then, so let's open up our example mod and let's make a Joker that requires a patch to work. So if you remember, we made our 3 basic Jokers last episode. It's going to be very similar to that, but instead of just this one Joker file, we're going to do something a little different. So to start off, I'm actually going to make a new folder and call it Lovely. If you want only one file, you can also just add a file called lovely.toml. Leave it in the root there. This will also work, but because typically having more than one patch is the norm, I'm just going to make a file here. And then you can name your TOML files whatever you'd like. So I'm just going to call this patches1.toml just for the hell of it. And then I'm going to add the manifest here. I'm just going to copy paste this from the Lovely repo and save that. So this on its own does not do anything. So we need to make a patch that targets something and make it do something. So what do I want to do that the base game doesn't allow me to do? Well, the game does not allow me to manipulate how booster packs are created for the shop. So I think I want to be able to do that. So let's do something like that. Why don't we? Okay, so this is something I have actually done with Maxis in a development version of it. So I actually know where I need to do this. So I'm going to go to game.lua. I'm going to go scroll down to create shop UI. Now game update shop is the function that creates all the different shop cards for you. So I'm going to scroll down. Where are boosters made? Oh, probably right here. So as you can see here, that's where the Maximus boosters are being done. So I'm going to tell you, how do I do this? Let's go back to our patches1.toml. I'm going to add a comment here. This is just a comment for later. That doesn't do anything. So I'm going to start with patches. Patches pattern. And as I said, our target is going to be in game.lua. So that's our target file, game.lua. We need a pattern. I'm going to format it like this, so that way we can use special characters if need be. And I want it, oop, that's the wrong file. I want it to be right before this line here. So that's going to be our pattern. Position, as I said, I want it to be before. The other positions you can have are after and at. At replaces the code entirely. And then our payload is going to be smods.calculate context. Boom, boom. And we're going to call it create shop booster equals true. So for this context, I also think I want to pass in the booster itself. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So I'm just going to X out a card. What's the booster card? Oh, looks like the booster here is card. So booster equals card. A little paradoxical, but that's how it works. Thank you, Thunk. And then I need to add a match indent equals true. This is a complete patch. This will work. So if I were to go in game, and I watch the game.lua file, this will theoretically update. Indeed it did. And if I search create shop booster, there's our context right there. As a reminder, this is in our lovely dump. This is a dump of the vanilla code after patches. So what do I want to do with this context here? So I'm going to make a Joker. So I'm going to copy Joker 3 here. I'm going to call this Joker 4. Joker 4 here as well. I do not need a config here, actually. So by that proxy, I don't need lock vars. Don't need any of this. You need to calculate equals function self card context. You should already know this if you watched the Jokers episode. If not, I highly recommend going back to episode 2. It is extremely important. So if we check for our context, if context.create shop booster, then I want context.booster cost to equal $0. So this should make all shop boosters cost $0 when this Joker is in your hand. Gonna make a quick localization for it. Gonna skip through that since you should already know how to do that. And then let's reopen the game, go into a run. And now I'm gonna use this mod called Too Many Jokers. Very, very helpful. If you press T, it just opens up a search bar for all your Jokers. I will leave a link to that in the description. So if I search for Joker 4, that's Joker 3. Joker 4. All shop boosters are 3. So I'm going to create it. Go to the shop. And would you look at that? All my boosters are free. Easy as that. So that is an example of making a patch to make a Joker work. Patches can be used in many, many more advanced ways than that. This is a very, very simple patch relative to what I've seen other people do. And you can get really, really crazy with some of the things you can do with patches. As in, change entire portions of the game. Want to make blind score or something, like blindside? Patches. So that's not all I said we were going to talk about today. We also need to talk about hooks. So what is a hook? A hook is essentially copying a function, overriding it, and then adding your own stuff to it while calling the original function that came before your version of it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a joker that makes shop card prices half when it's in my hand. So I'm going to copy joker 2 here actually. That'll make it a little easier for me. Call it joker 5. Call it joker 5. I don't actually need a config. Again, don't need to calculate. Hell, or log vars. Hell, I don't even need to calculate here. I'm just going to do this. Or I'm going to look for a set cost function. I'm sure that's going to be somewhere in the cards file. So I'm actually going to pull that up in Lovely really fast since I've deleted that like a silly man. Cardalua. Alright. And then set cost. Card set cost. There we go. So this is the function we'll be hooking. Card.setCost. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do local CC. You can name this whatever you want. You can name it like old set cost func or old func or whatever the hell you want. So I like doing abbreviations to help me differentiate between different hooks. You're also able to make hooks wherever you want your code files, essentially. I typically add my hooks to joker files with jokers that they're related to, but you do not have to do this. Some people make override files to hold other hooks. Some people put them in their main file. It doesn't really matter where you put them. So CC equals card dot set cost. And you're not going to call either. You're going to do card dot set cost equals function. And if I'm mistaken, this doesn't take any arguments. No, it does not. That's why it's simple. So we need to call our original function first, and we need to put in self, since this is a function for card. This otherwise does not get passed in if you don't add self. You need to add self there as well. And so I want to make card costs in the shop less when this joker is held. So I'm going to do smod or next smods.find card. What find card does is it will return a table of instances of a joker with a key that you specify, which in my case will be JXMPL joker 5. If next, sorry. And what next does here is it will take the next item in a table. If there is no next item in the table, it will return a falsy value. So that's why I'm using this as a mag check. Now I want to set the cost to half. So self.cost equals self.cost by 2. Easy enough. So this should also now work. I'm going to make a localization. Going to skip through that again. Okay. Open up the game once more. Go into run again. Search for Joker 5. All shop items cost half as much. So I'm going to go to the shop. And look at that. My boosters are $2. My vouchers are 5. Everything's in half except maybe the reroll. So yeah, this guy works. If I sell it, funny little tech, it doesn't actually reset the card cost, so you get a free shop like that. But if I reroll, these are back to normal. And that should cover hatching and hooking. Hope you gained something of use out of this episode, and thank you for watching.